Hello everyone, my name is Hanfei Dong from Han University in Korea and my advisor is Professor Simon Song. So in this presentation, I will talk about the work reducing flow-induced noise in a tumble dryer, insights from MRV-based TKE analysis. So this talk will focus on the analysis of the machine room. So first, I will give you a brief introduction to MRV. MRV is a flow visualization technique that uses a conventional MRI scanner. It measures in a 3D region and it's a non-invasive technology that doesn't require tracing particles. Because MRV uses magnetic field signals for measurements, it's suitable for complex and opaque flow environments. And MRV can measure a wide range of characteristics including the velocity, TKE, temperature, and two-phase flow. And it was primarily used in the medical field, but currently it is also widely used in various engineering flow fields, such as flow inside a refrigerator. So let's start. So as both this equation and the graph show, there is a strong correlation between the TKE and the acoustic levels. The conclusion is that regions characterized by dramatically varying TKE are associated with strong flow noise. So this is why we care about TKE when talking about flow noise. So the objective is to reduce flow-induced noise in a tumble dryer through MRV-based TKE analysis. So first, we aim to measure and analyze the characteristics of the 3D 3C mean velocity and TKE in a 3D printed model of a tumble dryer. And we aim to propose an improved model with more uniform fluid distribution and lower TKE. And finally, we aim to measure and compare sound and vibration levels of the two models using a microphone and accelerometers and quantify the noise and vibration reduction achieved through the improved design. So to perform our MRV experiments, we first needed to establish the experimental conditions using the dynamic similarity. So we began by measuring the airflow rate in the actual tumble dryer using a pitot tube, which was 2,250 RPM. So based on this flow rate at the fan inlet, we calculate the target Reynolds number, or 19,800. And to fit the MRI torso RF coil, we use the 0.4 scaled MRV model. And then using the target Reynolds number, we can calculate the required flow conditions for the MRV experiments as follows. So next, let's see how we build the MRV text section. So this text section was developed based on the tumble dryer kit model provided by LG Electronics. We preserved the internal flow structures while modifying the external features such as the wall thickness and added flange structures to make it suitable for MRV flow experiments. And the flow enters through the inlet part and is turned by the gathering part, passes through the evaporator and condenser, and finally exits through the contraction. This slide shows some photos of the actual 3D printed parts of the machine room model. So we use SLA 3D printers, Form 3L and Form 3 Plus, and selected a standard career region. And next, I will briefly explain our experimental setup. The MRV experiments was conducted using a 3D human MRI at Korea Basic Science Institute Wuchang campus. And as we can see, we have closed-loop circuit including a pump, an electromagnetic flow meter, a reservoir, and data aggregation instruments. And to maintain the working fluid at a steady temperature of 35 degrees, we use a refrigerated heating circulator and thermocouple. And a Cooper-Sulfate aqueous solution was used to enhance the signal-to-noise ratio and reduce noise. And regarding the scan parameters, we set isotropic spatial resolution of 0.5 millimeters for velocity measurement and isotropic 1 millimeter spatial resolution for TKE measurement. So next, I will show you the flow visualization result. So first, I will show you the 3D streamlines of the reference model. So as we can see, the flow at the inlet is very complex, featuring a large-scale secondary flow right here. And next, the evaporator acts as a flow conditioner, making the flow much more uniform as it passes through. However, at the zone between the evaporator and the condenser, we can still observe recirculations both on the sides and in the space above. And finally, in the outlet zone, we can say that the protruding space above the condenser causes a flow disturbance. And next, I will show you the 3D TKE isosurfaces of reference model. So as you can see, the high TKE regions colored by blue and red directly correspond to the areas of secondary flow recirculation and flow disturbance that we just identified on the previous slide. So based on our analysis on the flow issues in the reference model, we propose an improved model with 4 structural modifications. So first, we reshape the inlet part, removing parts that cause secondary flows and making the whole path smoother. And second, we close the space between 2 pillars. Then a fifth-order polynomial guide plane was added under the base cover, and finally, the protruding space in the outlet zone was filled. And next, I will show you the flow characteristics in the improved model. So here are the 3D streamlines of the improved model. So as you can see, the overall flow is much more orderly, and the large-scale secondary flow at the inlet of the reference model has been greatly reduced, and the recirculation between the 2 pillars has disappeared. And from the side view, it is clear that the flow smoothly follows the fifth-order polynomial gap plane. And finally, at the outlet, the flow exits much more smoothly without the previous flow disturbance. So to quantify the flow improvements, we use the flow uniformity index. The index ranges from 0 to 1, and a higher value means the flow is more uniform. So as we can see, our improved model achieved higher uniform values across all 3 zones. And then we use the secondary flow energy parameter to quantify the energy of the secondary flow relative to the main flow. So a higher value of this parameter indicates a greater presence of secondary flows. The result shows the improved model has a decreased secondary flow energy parameter. This indicates that the improved model has a more streamlined and efficient flow patterns. So to quantify the TKE reduction, this slide shows a comparison of average TKE between 2 models. We can see that except for the evaporator and the condenser zones where the TKE was reduced by only 4%, all other zones experienced reduction of more than 20%, demonstrating that the improved model significantly lowered the TKE in most areas of the machine room. So to see how our flow improvements affected the acoustic, we then conducted vibration and noise experiments. This slide shows the setup. We use custom 3D printed jigs to mount the model, ensuring identical text conditions for both models. And for the vibration measurements, we installed 4 accelerometers directly at the locations of our structural modifications. And for the noise measurement, we place a microphone outside the model to capture the sound radiated from the internal flow. So our signals were transmitted to a data acquisition system, which was connected connected to a computer for recording and analysis. Okay, this slide shows the vibration result from the 4 accelerometers at our structural modification locations. We focused our analysis up to 800 Hz because this is a primary range for the flow-induced vibration in this system. So at position 1 and 2, the vibration levels have no clear trend for the improvement model. So however, at position 3 shows a clear improvement in the low frequency range, specifically between the 300 Hz. And the greatest improvement was achieved at position 4, showing a clear reduction in vibration across the entire measured spectrum. So these improvements contribute to reducing noise generated by structural vibrations. So finally, let's say the noise resulting using a 1/3 octave band spectrum showing the frequency distribution of the sound pressure level. So the spectrum clearly shows a noise reduction in the low frequency range below the 800 Hz, leading to an overall drop of 3.2 decibels. So because the decibel scale is logarithmic, so this is equivalent to a 33% reduction in sound pressure. So this is a significant improvement. So this study, by using by lower in TKE through MRV-based analysis, we achieved a 3.2 decibel noise reduction in the MRV model. So however, the noise reduction in the actual dryer may differ due to the factors like acoustic impedance and materials. So therefore, the verification on the actual dryer is needed. So since the TKE is the primary source of flow-induced noise, reducing TKE is expected to result in flow noise reduction in the real model as well. So the conclusion is that the MRV-based TKE analysis provides an effective pathway for reducing flow-induced noise. Are the conclusions of my talk. Thank you for your attendance.